Working out here in the garage this morning on some bee boxes. I wanted to show some stuff that was a little more interesting. Just some of the winter chores. I've been hearing a lot about these 2-frame Nucs. So I decided I had some wafer board left over from building my garage. It's just laying out there, so I decided to cut them up and make some 2-frame Nucs. I made, I think I got 6 of them. But I've made them out of wafer board. I think a lot of times beekeepers try to wait till they got the perfect conditions or everything's perfect before they try to do stuff. It'd probably be better to make these out of plywood, but plywood's not what I got. I got wafer board. And so that's what I'm making these Nucs out of. I put a feeder, I cut a hole in the top for a feeder, put just a jar, probably just put quart jars on them. I can watch them, see how fast they take them down. But right now I'm just putting some paint on them. I got this paint, you can get wrong mixed paint. I got this paint that was mixed wrong at Lowe's for $1. I've got 2, they was about half gallons, they wasn't completely full. But I got them for $1. And it's good quality exterior paint. I think it was $42 or $45 to buy it new. But somebody didn't like the color of it and they brought it back. So that's what I'm using for this. It takes a lot more paint. For these wafer boards, they soak it up, especially the first coat. Next coat ain't too bad. But I'm going to get this paint on here. I made some Nucs. The year that I sold the Nucs, I was waiting for needed the perfect boxes, and I thought everything had to be perfect, so I probably put it off longer than I should have. I finally went out and made some boxes on what I had. I made it out of plywood. Some of them were wafer board. There was just a lot of different things I made these Nucs out of. But they all worked the first year, but some of them didn't hold up as good. But the ones that were wafer board actually held up pretty good, a lot better than I expected. A lot of the plywood, I guess it was an outdoor plywood, but they didn't hold up too good. So I've pieced some of them together, and I'll make them work, and then some of them probably not going to work at all. But a Nuc, or at least what I've done so far, the Nucs aren't, they're not used. Those Nucs, when I sold those Nucs, I sold it into the customer's equipment, sold the frames. They brought their own equipment and put the bees in it. Nucs were out for a little while, but it wasn't like a bee box. It wasn't then where it was out all year long and had to hold up to the weather for the whole year. One of the things I'm doing a little different this year is incorporating more Nucs. I'm going to try. I guess I've never really tried. I've heard a lot of people say, overwinter your Nucs and make Nucs and overwinter them, and you got a fresh supply of queens. But I've always heard before when I was doing it that there wasn't much success with that. So I guess I've never really tried that hard because I heard so many people say that they wasn't successful at it. So I never did do it. But I'm hearing a lot of people say now that they are successful. So I'm going to give it a shot and try to overwinter some Nucs and use them a lot more. So these will probably be out in the weather a lot more than my Nucs ever had. So this paint's really going to help a lot. My bench, I was going to clean up my bench before the video, but when I got to thinking about it, there's a whole lot more people out there that's bench looks like this one than there is it's got a spotless bench. If you do much work to mount to anything, your workbench probably looks similar to this one. So just trying to keep it real. Another thing, I told you I'd show you some of my mistakes, or show you my mistakes that I've made too. I was making these Nuc boxes. I kind of had an idea of what I wanted. I knew there was 2 frames, so I kind of measured on my own. I didn't use anybody's measurements. I just measured what 2 frames would fit in. And I made my first one. And it turned out pretty good. I cut all the pieces individually. And the plan was to make that one, use it for a guide, and then cut out all my pieces at one time. So I did that. And they said to measure twice and cut once. I got all my pieces cut out and made my first nuke. I think I had 5 more to make, so I had 1 prototype. Then I was going to make 5 more, and I did, but my first one wasn't the size wasn't quite right, and it was too late. I didn't want to change it after I got started, so I ended up, I've got 1 3-frame nuke. I went with the wrong measurements, and I was so excited about making it, I didn't realize it until I got done. I put the frames in there. I was like, well, I guess I'll have some 2 frames and 1 3-frame, so maybe it'll come in handy. I don't know, but I got a 3-frame nuke. That's one of my mistakes, but I think it'll be all right. I'm sure I'll use it in one way or another. I want to show you a little bit more of what I'm doing out here today in the honey house. I've been working on painting some of these boxes and putting frames together. This is an old frame. I know some of the new beekeepers don't know what a lot of stuff is, or a lot of stuff we take for granted. This is a sheet of wired foundation, just wax foundation. I staple mine in, put the staples here on the hooks at the on the top bar. And I use a 9-frame spacer in my honey supers. Probably sit better on this one. This right here is a 9-frame spacer. That way this box will only hold 9 frames. And that makes the bees draw the comb out a little farther, which makes it a whole lot easier to extract. You can run the hot knife along the side of the frame, and it's drawn out thicker than if you put 10 frames in here, and it's a lot easier to cut those caps off. So this is a 9-frame spacer. This is actually a shallow super, a shallow honey super. This is a medium, or an Illinois honey super. If you took this shallow frame, I think I got 2 of them in here. You can see, hopefully, that these don't come down as far as these. If you use those shallows in a medium box, you will get bird comb here on the bottom. Usually it'll be pretty straight because there's not that much. You'll bring it on down for bee space, and fill that the rest of the way out. But I got to get 2 more medium frames. It's kind of, I never had the intention of going to mediums. When I started out, I had all shallows, and I bought stuff that another beekeeper had, and he had mediums, and that's what he had, so that's what I got. So I ended up with some mediums. I try to paint them this gray color, and I try to paint the shallows white. I don't have them all color coordinated yet, but that's the go. Again, this is a sheet of foundation. It's wired. I put these wires in here to help support it, so when I spin the honey out, the wax don't go flying. And this is some drawn comb. This is a good example. It's not great. I don't know if you can see it, but it's got some holes in it. But this is something, looks kind of rough, but the bees will clean this up. It's amazing how fast and good a job they do at cleaning stuff up. They'll clean all that up and fix it and be filling that with honey in no time. It's amazing how fast they can clean this stuff up and reuse it. Another thing is discretionary, I guess, between beekeepers is when to throw this away, how long to keep it, and when to throw it away. This one is a good example to me of one to keep. It's not perfect. It's got a little bit of damage to the comb itself, but I think the bees will be able to clean that up pretty easy. Wanted to show a little bit of the less glamorous side of beekeeping, the part that nobody likes to do, but stuff that we've got to do. Now I can't find my hive tool. There it is. This is a frame. This is a frame of drawn comb. It's a high body frame, a full size, full depth frame. But it's got, the bees have gotten in there and destroyed, or not the bees, but the mice have gotten in there. This is again example of what not to do. But they've gotten in there and messed up a lot of combs, but this one ain't too bad. The bees will clean that up. But this frame can be cleaned up, and put back in the hive. They'll clean all that up. And if you can see it, this is a trail from wax moth. Wax moth will get in there and spin cocoons, and will make trails through that and eat this comb up, especially comb that's had bees raised in it. When they raise bees in a cell, it makes it darker because they spin cocoons before they come out. They'll spin cocoons in there, and it just keeps getting darker and darker. And one of the ways you can tell when to take a frame out of service is the darker it gets, when it gets really black. This frame over here and this side, see how close I can get that. Right there is some drone. That'll be when the queen comes up there and fills that with her, I guess, I don't know if she fills it with her legs or her mandibles, but anyway, she'll know that that's a larger comb, and she'll lay drone unfertilized eggs in those cells. These are all worker cells here, but this is a really good frame. This stuff is really so valuable to keep, and keep this from happening to take care of. But when you got, if you've got 50 colonies at 10 frames a piece, that's a lot of frames to take care of. But you really got to make an effort and try to do a good job of taking care of this stuff. But all this stuff has to be scraped off. Again, your hive tool, winter job right now. Today's January 15th. Good time to get out here. It's too wet. It's cold today. I think it's pretty cold today. But it's too wet to get out there and do anything with bees, and too cold. So this is what you have to do in the wintertime. You're going to keep bees. You're going to get stung. You're going to get hot being out there in a bee suit. And you're going to have to do a lot of this nasty, dirty work cleaning up these frames. Every year, every winter, you're going to have to clean up some frames and get them ready for the next year.